Hello YouTube, Fish Trap is here, and now we're gonna talk about a moment I've been waiting for, where we will do an intro video on Kinnikuman. As in the character, not the game. Kinnikuman, the character from slash in the game, Kinnikuman Muscle Grand Prix 2. But we're talking about the character Kinnikuman as in Suguru Kinniku, King Muscle if you watch the dub, I guess. Kinnikuman, the guy, the main character. The guy who the series is named after, right? It's finally time to take a look at him because the anime actually have finally gotten to him. I think people who maybe are introduced to the series for the first time through the anime might be surprised to find out it takes this long for Kinnikuman to get fights, but it's actually a pretty powerful course. In a pretty typical arc, Kinnikuman maybe only gets 2 or 3 fights in an arc, and I will admit it's pretty egregious this arc, but this is one of his 2 or 3 fights this arc, so it'll be a while before you see him fight again. But it's a cool fight, isn't it? I'm pretty sure the fight doesn't end with this episode. Like I always mention, I always record these in advance. But judging by on where the last episode ends, I'm pretty sure there's no way Kinnikuman's fight ends on this arc. But you get a good taste of it already. So let's take a dive at Kinnikuman and what he does, right? So Kinnikuman, as the main character of Kinnikuman Muscle Grand Prix 2, is kind of the epitome of the game. He encapsulates of like what good MGP2 is, and he does this like in a really good way, right? You might think he's not like a Shoto or anything, right? Because a Shoto wouldn't really make sense in a game like this. But kind of in the same way, like, you know, Ryu represents like good Street Fighter, or like Jin and Kazuya, or like Mishima's, I guess, represents like good Tekken. Kinnikuman represents good MGP2. And what do I mean by that, right? So Kinnikuman has some really good natural combos. He has like a 2-hit jab string, which okay, it's actually 3-hit, but the third hit doesn't combo, so it's only like the first 2. And for a 2-hit jab string, it's a pretty solid damage, 98 damage, pretty good frame data, good plus frames, good startup. It's just like a pretty good jab, and that's really nice to have when you're using it to punish a lot of random throws, a lot of moves on block, right? He also has a solid 2-way poke, which in his case combos into 5S for more damage. And at the ropes, he can even combo this into even more stuff, right? 2-way 5S, for example, then he can go into his near rope throw, which is very good. Technically, you can kind of do something similar mid-screen, but this actually isn't real because you can mash out of heavy stunts in this game. But this is a very common noob trap to go for, where you basically do 2-way 5S mid-screen, dash up into a thing, but that's basically never real if you mash out of it enough. So between kind of like a good jab and a good 2-way 5S, this kind of really incentivizes Kinnikuman to really focus on those standing combos, which honestly is what MGP2 is really all about. A lot of people look at MGP2 when they see, oh, it's a 3D game, so it has to be all about the juggles, right? But actually, Kinnikuman doesn't have really amazing juggles, or his juggles are not very interesting, I guess. I actually forgot to set the opponent attack rolls, so let me do that like in a second. Like, day 1 Kinnikuman juggle, something like this, for example, where you do a launch, jab, jab, 5S, jab, jab, 5S, right? Which does okay damage, but it doesn't even knock down. It's pretty lame looking, right? It's not very good. Instead, like the optimal combos are more something like this, for example. You can do like a launch into a 214A, into an OTG, right? That's kind of what it is. Like, it's very simple. It's just launch, button, OTG. And this actually, it might look really simple, but it's actually really good for helping you learn the combo, like the juggle structures in this game. A lot of juggles in this game are always kind of launch, you know, some kind of juggle filler, and then into an ender, whether that's like an air throw or like an SKD move. Kinnikuman here does an SKD move, right? And after this SKD, you get the OTG afterwards, but the OTG leniency, as in like how long the opponent is kind of forced to be on the ground, depends a lot on like the move that does the knockdown. Since Kinnikuman is just going straight into a high damage OTG move in his 214A, this makes it a really lenient OTG. A lot of SKD moves are at the end of like a long combo, so they do like very little damage. So you have like a very tight window to OTG. Kinnikuman doing Enzui actually ends up having like a really lenient time to hit that OTG. So it actually like makes you kind of more comfortable doing like those, you know, juggle theory basically. Kinnikuman does have some more advanced juggles, which actually like makes the OTG a lot more difficult. So there is still room for like optimization there. You can do juggles like this, and then I can OTG, but I'm gonna miss it. Oh, there you go, right? And that's a bit more difficult, but it's like better positioning, better damage technically. But you know, you can just stick with this when you're just getting started, right? But as I mentioned earlier, juggles are not really Kinnikuman's main bread and butter. They're all about the standing combos, right? I showed a bit about the 2A 5S earlier, right? But he even has a really good wall-running attack that lets him like combo with pretty consistently, which is not very common in this game actually. And the fact that he has a rope throw, which I showed a bit earlier, kind of incentivizes him to do another MGP2 hallmark of playing to get the ropes. Because being at the ropes is very scary in MGP2. For those unaware, right, when you're at the ropes and you block certain moves, you get bounced back instead, right? So blocking, defending in general, this becomes a lot scarier when you're at the ropes. And Kinnikuman has a way to capitalize off of those rope bounces, for example. I have the opponent set to like block here, and Kinnikuman is just out here doing his pressure, right? He's doing stuff like this, or his 5S, his 2A 5S, to get like those bounces. He has a really good way to like get reward off of that by just doing his near rope throw. You don't see it here, but like, it does very decent damage. It even drains some meter, so it's just an overall very good thing to go for. And on that note, he actually also gets a very good OTG off of this. He gets to do off of this throw as well. Actually, he gets to do his 2A 2A, which I missed there. Let's try it again. Of like maybe like his near rope throw. He gets to do with 2A 2A, which combos into 4-6S. 4-6S like is this actually on its own very strong kind of evasive launcher. It's like, I jokingly call it a DP, it's not really, but it has like a lot of evasiveness, and it's just like a pretty good like counter poke, but it also hits OTG, and that means Kinnikuman has that OTG combo, which not everyone has, but those who have it, they really appreciate having it, and this lets him like a lot of damage from his knockdowns. This basically means from like stuff like, oh, I can open in the corner, I can do that into my rope bounce, and then I can either just go for 2A charge cancel to just have more advantage, or I can go for stuff like this into 2A 4-6S for just more damage. Kinnikuman like gets those options basically. And we haven't even talked about his special throws. Of course, Kinnikuman being Kinnikuman has the iconic Kinniku Buster. This is a really good special throw. This is solid damage. It lets you OTG with the 2A 4-6S that I mentioned earlier, or if you just want to be meterless, you can also just go for 8A for still really decent damage. Just you get like less plus afterwards. And Kinniku Buster like is really good because it's a 21 frame special throw. Most special throws in this game are like 24 frames, some are even like 27 frames. Kinnikuman is 21 frames, and it doesn't sound like a big difference, but 21 frames to 24 frames actually makes Kinniku Buster like a lot harder to react to. Most special throws, you don't really want to just be throwing them out because like they have a pretty distinct flash. They're pretty reactable if your opponent like looking for them. But Kinniku Buster being 21 frames actually makes it so that you can convincingly use it as a mix-up option. So you can just like, you know, be doing stuff with your opponent like this, and then suddenly boom, Kinniku Buster, they eat like 40% if you go for the OTG, right? And that's really cool. That's like he's definitely like a very like damage comes very easily for Kinnikuman, and it's generally a good feeling, right? And that's kind of all there is to Kinnikuman, and that's like not bad at all. He just has like this collection of like very good tools, things that all kind of come together to make like a character that is good in like this MGP2 system. Maybe he's a bit too fair. That's maybe like why he can't really hang with like the really top tiers. But what he's able to do is just good, right? And learning to play Kinnikuman will make you a better MGP2 player. I always tell everyone, kind of, and this is a bit biased, I'll admit, that everyone should have a Kinnikuman, because if you know how to play Kinnikuman, if you're like good at Kinnikuman, you can basically transfer all those skills to other characters, because then you can quickly figure out what you need to have in a character. You go, okay, I want to have a character who's able to have a good heavy stun or knockdown moves, or so that I can like do a rope bounce. What's my special throw so I can like combo into it, right? What are my SKDs? You can quickly just like figure out those things and apply them to other characters, and you can very quickly pick up characters that way. Which is why I think Kinnikuman will just make you a better MGP2 player and helps you pick up other characters very well. There's also kind of this understated strength with Kinnikuman that's maybe a bit hard to like explain, but like Kinnikuman is very low maintenance. His combos are very easy, right? It's just like stuff like this, for example, where you just do running A, jab, special throw, and then just randomly already does like 50% of their life if you go for the OTG, right? He has very low maintenance combos, and that's kind of a strength, right? You might have heard arguments like in other fighting games where a character who's very difficult might have a hard time like in a tournament because playing them are more is like more mentally taxing. Kinnikuman is not. Kinnikuman is a very straightforward character. And so picking him up, playing him in tournament, he's very low maintenance, even like in a high chest situation, even like deep in the bracket when you're exhausted. You can play Kinnikuman pretty well because like he's pretty foolproof basically. Messing up like his combos aren't very difficult that you can mess them up. That there's a lot of ways to mess them up, right? So he's just very reliable, basically, and that's kind of a really good trait to have. Of course, maybe he isn't the most low maintenance character in the game, but he's up there. So that frees up your brain space to focus more about adapting to your opponent, reacting to their throws, all that stuff, right? I think that might just be me personally, but I find that when I don't have to like think as much about like my combos, I react to throws better. And you can argue that yeah, you can just get to that point with other characters, and that's probably true. But with Kinnikuman, you get to like that point of just being comfortable with your combos, with your pressure and everything, very very quickly. So yeah, if you're a beginner trying to pick up this game, Kinnikuman is just a perfect platonic ideal of the MGP2 character. To repeat myself a little bit, everyone should love a Kinnikuman. He's just easy to pick up, really fun to play, really rewarding to play. He just feels good to play, like a cool spring breeze or like a nice shower or something like that. I'm gonna stop now before my analogy goes way off track, and I'll leave you off with there's might be a spoiler for way down in the season, but by the time like that airs, this will be like 2 years away, so I won't even say like this is a big spoiler, because if you're playing the game, you will know this already, and that is his super, the perfect muscle spark. It's a really cool super. It's a very iconic move. I missed the OTG there, but trust me, you get OTG off of that. It's a little bit tight, right? But that's kind of Kinnikuman. Really cool character. Definitely pick him up. With this, technically, like next week, I don't think we'll get to our next fight yet in the anime. But if we do, that means it's finally time for the Reckoning. But most likely we'll still have the Kinnikuman fight, and then the week after that will be the big funny Rockman. So look forward to like the Rockman video. We'll figure out what we'll do for next week's video for this time slot, I guess. So this has been Fish Traps. Thank you all for watching, I guess. Hope you all like this. Hope you all pick up Kinnikuman, honestly. That's my agenda. Pick up Kinnikuman. He's really fun to play. And I'll see you all in the next intro video.